All right, good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here. I'm Rachel Godoyne, and I'm on the outreach team here at Monterey One Water, also known as M1W, our acronym. So we know that conversations about rates are important to our community, and we appreciate you being here tonight for this public information session to learn more and to ask questions. So tonight's goal is to help explain more about Monterey One Water's wastewater system, why we're proposing new rates now and what goes into those rates, and how the rate setting process will work moving forward. This is an information session only. No decisions are being made tonight. Our board of directors will hear this item later this month on Monday, June 29th, 2026 at 6 p.m. Tonight is an opportunity for you to hear directly from staff, from subject matter experts before that public hearing. After the presentation, we will have an opportunity for you to ask questions. And if you prefer, staff will also be available after to discuss questions one-on-one if that's your preferred method. All right, so wastewater service is something that most of us rely on every single day, even though most of the system operates underground or out of sight and behind the scenes. So every time we shower, every time we do dishes, do laundry, flush the toilet, that used water is collected in the local sewer system that is operated by cities and districts within the Monterey One Water service area. Monterey One Water then helps collect and convey that used water to our regional treatment plant, where it is our responsibility to treat it and safely reintroduce it into the environment. On average, I have a prop for this one. Oh, I got a 1-gallon jug. So on average, we treat 17 million gallons. So this is 1 gallon. So we do 17 million gallons of wastewater each day. This work is essential to protecting public health, to supporting our communities, and protecting the environment.
Thank you. So thank you, Rachel, for that introduction. My name's Paul Shudo. Can you hear me okay? Okay. Yes? My name is Paul Shudo, and I'm the executive officer at Monterey One Water. I want to reiterate, thank you all for being here. I can't tell you how many of these type of sessions I've held where we have not had the community interest, so very much appreciate your time. Like many public entities throughout California, specifically public utilities, we're facing increasing costs to provide reliable wastewater services. Those cost increases are due to a number of things, which you'll hear about today. But one is aging infrastructure, the treatment plant, the pipes in the ground that have been there for 40 years or more in, frankly, fairly aggressive environments. In order to reliably and safely continue operating, we need to reinvest in those assets or that infrastructure. So at the same time of the infrastructure, the costs of, we got this all up here, good. The costs of treatment are increasing. Like all of us know, energy costs, electrical costs are going up. For us, treatment chemical costs are going up substantially. And then, of course, equipment, materials, everything surrounding the work we do. Also, wastewater systems have to comply with a number of regulations and environmental impacts that we could have, but there's rules along that. So you'll also hear a little bit about our treatment process today and what we do. One of the key goals for long-term planning is to address infrastructure needs proactively. We don't want things to break. We don't want wastewater to flow where it shouldn't untreated. So to be proactive and have a plan in place to make sure we reliably meet the level of service that our customers require and want is something that's very important to us. Um, it's important to note that Monterey One Water is a public agency, so we don't profit from the rates. It's truly, we're trying to increase our rates to the level that meets the needs of collecting and treating the wastewater and investing in the infrastructure which we all own. So, how are rates developed? It's it can be somewhat confusing. So we're trying to distill it down to something that is frankly understandable. Um, we hired an independent rate consultant, someone that a company that has hundreds of rate studies under their belt specific to water and wastewater utilities. The process starts with an understanding of the needs of our wastewater system, including our day to day operations, infrastructure reinvestment, regulatory requirements, and so on. So, in establishing what those costs are for operating what we have, is the basis. The independent rate study then does a cost of service analysis, um, specifically looking at the number of customers we have, which we have about 65,000 accounts. And they evaluate the operational data, customer information, flows, strength of wastewater, a number of variables, and the projected financial needs over the next 5 to 10 years. Based on that analysis, they develop a proposed revenue requirement and then, therefore, a rate requirement for all of us. Um, the proposed rates are then brought forward through this public process, which I see some of you have the notices that we sent out, which is part of Proposition 218. And that will also include additional notifications, public information sessions like this, and then ultimately, as Rachel mentioned, a board hearing on June 29th of this year for consideration. I wanted to touch on one thing that's not on the slides because I heard a number of people ask about it. It is the rate structure that we have. So it is a fixed rate structure. And let me back up. I'll be specific to residences, not commercial at this point. So every house is charged the same amount, whether that house is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath or a 10-bedroom, 10-bath. The reason for this is through case law throughout the state of California, it's come down that we have basically two ways to have a rate structure. One is fixed on number of houses and just charging everyone the same. A second way is looking at water usage data from each individual property in the winter months. So that's generally water you'll use in the house versus irrigation, and then base it on water usage. Unfortunately, as a regional entity, we don't have that data. It is in California American Water, Cal Water Service, ALCO, and a number of others, Marina Coast Water District. So we just don't have that data. So the only legally justifiable way to go about our rate structure, which our board did approve earlier this year, is this flat rate. We understand that that may not be the most equitable way in certain people's cases. So what we are trying to develop, and we'll bring to our board next month also for consideration, is a low use variance. So not to pick it on anyone, but let's say you say, I only have one person in my house, I don't use that much water. The variance, which we're still developing, you'll bring in your water bills for, let's say, November through February in the wintertime. If it's under a specific amount that we're tying to state legislation, then you would have a low use variance, a reduced rate. So I just wanted to touch on that. I know there'll be more questions on it, but I figure that's a good start. Okay, so the proposed rates. What we are proposing, and it's under the Proposition 218 requirements, is a 5-year plan. So under Prop 218, agencies like us can do a 1-year proposed maximum rate increase up to a 5-year. So for financial planning purposes, we're proposing the 5-year. And I guess this sort of takes all the thunder, but this is what we're proposing. This is the maximum percentage that rates could increase. So you'll see 8899 there. Sorry if I'm in your way. But it's not automatic. What this sets is the upper limit that our board of directors can vote any given year. So as an example, I have been with agencies in the past that we had an upper limit of, let's say, 8, but the downturn in the economic downturn in 2008, 2009 timeframe, our board said, no, this isn't the time for a rate increase, and they reduced it. So every year, our board, which is 10 elected officials that are appointed to our board, will make that determination on what it will actually be. Now, you may have seen in the notifications and other notices that the general proposal is an 8%, 8%, 8%, 9, 9 those last 2 years. That's not exactly the way it works because of that rate study we talked about. The same percentage is not applied between all our customers because we can't have one customer class subsidize another. So what you'll actually see for this year, what we're proposing to our board for consideration is about a $3 per month increase. So from 54 to 57.27. If that looks strange to all of you, we only bill on every 2 months. So right now you're probably seeing a bill from us that totals about $108 per bill, but that's only 6 times per year. In addition, the city of Salinas adds on for their collection system of rate, and I think they're at about $16 per month right now. So your bills you may be seeing is what, 32 plus 108. So my math is bad, but I think that's about $140 every 2 months. Our proposal at this point is to go up that $3.27. And then in future years, we'll calculate it out based on that approximate 8% and take it to our board for consideration. The proposed rates will ultimately be considered by our board on the 29th, just to reiterate that again. And it is a public hearing, so you can either submit comments or a protest or come to our board, talk, as well as submit a protest. With that, I think I'm going to hand it back to you, Rachel.
All right. So we've talked about the proposed rates and the process we use to develop them, but an important part of tonight's discussion is understanding what those rates actually support. So with that, I would like to invite up my colleagues, our subject matter experts for this evening. So as they come on up, wastewater service depends on a wide range of people and systems working together every day. So that includes operators who keep treatment systems running 24 hours a day, water quality and compliance staff helping meet environmental regulations, engineering and project teams planning infrastructure improvements, and finance staff working to support long-term system planning and proportional cost recovery. So to help connect those areas of work to the proposed rates, we're now going to hear briefly from these subject matter experts across the different areas of Monterey One Water.
Hi, thank you, Rachel. Can everybody hear me okay? My name is Jose Guzman. I'm the operations manager for Monterey One Water. And again, thank everyone for being here. I always appreciate the opportunity to share what we do because there is so much involved. So earlier, Paul and Rachel talked about Monterey One Water's role in the collection and treatment of the wastewater that is sent to our facility. Wastewater treatment is a 24-hour operation and requires staff that is highly trained and certified. That staff consists of operators, mechanics, utilities, electricians, instrumentation specialists, lab staff. And that's just a few of the many highly trained professionals that we employ to treat wastewater. There's also a substantial energy demand. Paul mentioned that's one of our costs. So energy demand, chemical use in the treatment process, maintenance, monitoring systems, and all that is tied together to ensure the reliable treatment of wastewater so there is no interruption in what we do. The rates that we are proposing support the operations and maintenance of these complex systems. When maintenance is done on equipment in a proactive manner and equipment is replaced before catastrophic failures, it ensures that reliable service that we provide to our public. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Sarah.
Thanks, Jose. My name's Sarah. I'm the Environmental and Regulatory Compliance Supervisor for Monterey One Water. Oh, can you hear me better now? Sorry. Okay, thank you for that. So good evening, everyone. My name is Sarah Stevens. I'm the Environmental and Regulatory Compliance Supervisor for Monterey One Water. Wastewater conveyance and treatment agencies operate under strict regulatory requirements that are designed to protect public health and the environment. Wastewater conveyance and meeting these standards requires ongoing monitoring, reporting, testing, inspecting, specialized equipment, and as Jose mentioned, certified staff. As regulations evolve over time, wastewater agencies like Monterey One Water must update their equipment, operational practices, and procedures to maintain reliable treatment and maintain compliance. This work ensures that the wastewater that we receive is treated safely before it is reintroduced into the environment. While much of this work is behind the scenes, maintaining compliance is a critical aspect of what Monterey One Water does to protect water quality, public health, and the communities that we serve. And I'll pass it over to Matt.
Good evening, folks. Hello, my name is Matt Thompson. I am the Director of Engineering at Monterey One Water. Providing reliable wastewater service requires a lot of infrastructure. I mean, pump stations, pipelines, treatment facilities, that kind of thing. This infrastructure is a major investment. Monterey One Water maintains well over $1 billion in infrastructure assets. It is essential that we be good stewards of these assets. We do this by scheduling a series of projects to rehabilitate, replace, and upgrade the infrastructure. Our goal, excuse me, is to maintain all the infrastructure in good working condition so it does not fail and cause emergencies or become an expensive problem for future generations. We also want to keep up with evolving water quality regulations. We have numerous projects planned in the coming years. We have some exhibits showing those projects in the back. I'll be glad to answer questions about some of the projects afterwards if you'd like. We have carefully prioritized and scheduled these projects to spread the costs over time, to even out the annual expenditures, and create time to secure financing for these projects. This helps to minimize the need for drastic changes to wastewater rates. We have projects to improve the reliability of the pump stations and pipelines that deliver sewage from each community to the regional treatment plant. For example, we are currently under construction on upgrades of the Monterey and Seaside pump stations, two of our largest sewage pump stations. We have a similar project plan for the pump station that serves the city of Salinas. We also have an electrical project under construction at the regional treatment plant. that will greatly improve electrical reliability, enable us to purchase more renewable energy from the neighboring regen landfill, and reduce our dependence on PG&E electrical power. We recently completed a master plan for a comprehensive upgrade of the regional treatment plant. The plant is aging, and much of it has reached the end of its useful life. We have a plan to upgrade to a much more efficient treatment process. The project will add 30 or 40 years of new life to the facility. We're also preparing to begin construction of some renewable energy improvements. The project includes a system to upgrade the biogas that we generate to a new source of renewable natural gas for injection into PG&E's pipeline. That particular project is also going to generate new revenues for the agency. The project also includes new generators to efficiently produce clean electrical power for our facilities. All these projects should work together to help ensure Monterey One Water always provides reliable wastewater service and remains compliant with evolving regulations. Thank you for hearing about our infrastructure investments. Again, I'll be available in the back if you have any questions about our planned projects. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Steve Kerrigan. I'm the Senior Director of Administrative Services, and I have a couple of points here to cover. The first one is rates are based on the cost of providing wastewater service. This is probably the most important thing to remember tonight. We are a public agency, so we cannot make a profit on rates. We can only charge the cost of the service. And that's really important. The second item is different customer classes place different demands on the system. We have residential units, we have single family apartments and condos under businesses. We have smaller businesses, larger industrial businesses. And there's two things you'll hear when we're talking about wastewater. It's wastewater strength and wastewater flow. What's coming out of these facilities? So Rachel mentioned when you take a shower or flush a toilet, that water leaves your house or your place of business. It comes to us. That's wastewater strength and flow. I'll give you a perfect example. Stoney's has about 120 seats. Their rate, because they have higher strength and flow, is going to be higher than, say, Bagel Corner, who might have 30 seats. And it's the same thing with pizza places, libraries, hospital. The more strength and flow you have, the more your rate is going to go up or be higher. Why? Because you have a higher impact on our system. On number three, financial planning helps support reliable long-term service. There's other variables that go into calculating the rate, and I want to make sure I get it right here. There's energy, materials, workforce investments, aging infrastructure, and state and federal regulations. Very briefly, on energy, we run these facilities, the regional treatment plant, our pump stations, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We have a hefty PG&E bill. When it comes to materials or chemicals, we use a lot of chlorine, so we buy it in bulk to get a better deal. On workforce investments, the regional treatment plant doesn't run itself. People run it. So there's an investment in people. Like me, these facilities are aging. The pipes are aging. The facility's aging and need to be replaced. And finally, the one that stings the most, state and federal regulations. There's these things called mandates. That means we have to do it. And there's no accompanying revenue source that goes with it. So that's going to drive up the rate also. And then finally, the last point is Monterey One Water works to manage costs and pursue outside funding opportunities. We spend a lot of time on this. Again, we can only charge for the cost of the service. We cannot make a profit out of this. So we spend a lot of time chasing grants or pursuing grant opportunities or low-income loans. We have a customer assistance program that Paul mentioned earlier, and we are working on a low use variance that we will be pitching to the board here in a couple of weeks. The goal of the rate study really is to have reliable service, but also planning very carefully for the future. Because I had to say this at a board meeting a couple of weeks ago, and it's very difficult, but we're not really excited about raising rates. But if we don't raise those rates now or to what they should be, and 8.99, those are good rates. I can attest to that. If we put it off a year or two, it's only going to get more expensive. And that means those rates are going to go up higher. So I I can tell you that everyone up here and in this room and at Monterey One Water spent a lot of time, and these are real accurate numbers. Really looking forward to hearing your questions. But again, the last thing on the study is that we want a reliable service. We want to provide a reliable service and plan accordingly for the future. Paul, Rachel?
All right. So thank you to our subject matter experts for sharing a little on their responsibilities at Monterey One Water. If you are interested in seeing and learning more about the systems you heard about tonight, I am very excited to share that Monterey One Water now offers a 360-degree virtual tour of our regional treatment plant. So it's an interactive experience that will take you behind the scenes of our facility, including areas that only our certified specialists can access. So the link and the code to check it out are on the screen. And I hope you will spend some time with it and really get to see the infrastructure and see the treatment processes that are ensuring that your wastewater is cleaned and safely reintroduced into the environment.
Thanks, Rachel. So I wanted to provide a little context to some of what we heard tonight, because I think it helps in understanding where the rates are going. So you heard Matt talk about those capital improvements, which are those two boards on the my far left, your far right. We need to spend about $50 million per year to upgrade our treatment plant, collection system, force mains, and everything else. So in terms of magnitude, it's over $500 million over that 10-year planning horizon. I think you heard Jose and Steve mention electrical and chemical. Our PG&E bill is a little over $9 million, like $9.2 million. So when we start seeing those 20% increases from PG&E, that's the magnitude we're all dealing with. And then on the chemical side of things, our annual chemical budget is a little over $8 million. So these are substantial parts of our budget. You know, when you look to this little board here of where each dollar goes, it just helps hopefully provide some context for that. I want to say thank you for being here and your interest, and hopefully you learned a little something about Monterey One Water, how we set rates, what we do with those funds, and for the community. As we've mentioned probably about 5 times now, there is a public hearing at our board meeting on June 29th, which is in Monterey in the Ryan Ranch area, which you're more than welcome to attend. And with that, I was hoping we could just move on to the question and answer portion. Just anyone that has questions, please raise hands. Awesome. And then for those that don't want to share with everyone, staff will be sticking around if you want to just talk to any of us individually on any of these topics. So I think I saw yours first. I'm going to ask our translator to speak into here, if that's okay. So, sorry.
My name is Armando Vargas. Here in this assembly, I'm a longtime resident of Salinas, a field worker, someone that has worked for 40 years in the field. And I see all the consequences of the upraise and usage of water in this area, in the agriculture fields. We have seen how water has evolved throughout the years and how that affects us. But over here, we're hearing about increases. We're in this gathering that is a small gathering where you're informing us, when you're telling that the rates are going to be increasing. The rates have increased for a very long time. Each year they increase. But definitely we are the ones that pay for the broken glasses or plates, as we say in our countries. definitely it is we that are the ones that use, not in the same measurement that big ag uses. We use it in a very small proportion, but we end up paying for that usage of water that is not proportional. You talk about millions that is going to be that you invest, millions that you use every year to treat the water and make it safer. But those things you have already measure them, how much you expend, how much you use, and you have already taken it to the board. And you have already decided what are going to be the rates that we are constantly being pounded by. I would ask from you, yes, this is a perfect gathering. We are being informed, but I would ask you that please do a bigger conveying that we will, all the city of Salinas will be gathered, wider outreach so we can all be informed. Because at the end, the users of that water are your citizens, and we are the ones being affected by the increases.
So you had a couple questions there. Certainly one is, obviously we are the wastewater provider, not provider, we're the wastewater treatment and disposal and or reuse company. So we are not associated with the potable water or ag water companies out there. However, to your point on, you're right, it affects everyone when we say we're going to increase our rates. And although our budget is based on the rate increase that we saw, we are prepared to reduce the budget depending what our board says. So it's not set in stone. It's not necessarily going to happen. If our board were to not increase it that $3.27 per month, we have a list of projects that we wouldn't do. We would also, well, it's mainly projects on the capital side of things. So we would adjust our budget according to what our board will do. In a second, I'm also going to ask Rachel to talk about our outreach efforts, because you're right. I mean, I love the fact that so many people are here, but it's not 285,000 people that we serve. But we do try to get the information out there. Certainly, we meet the law, the Proposition 218 law, but we feel we go above and beyond that. But it is very tough to reach out to every single person. Yes, so that's a great question. The rate increase go to the property owners. Now, that does get passed on frequently to renters and so on. I want to ask Rachel to talk about the outreach, and then I think we had two other questions. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
All right. So again, thank you for being here. I'm Rachel Godoyne, and I am on our outreach team. I've been on the team in this capacity for about a year now. And thank you for the question on outreach, because outreach is a little bit tough in the wastewater business. Historically, sewer was really meant to be out of sight, out of mind. And to some extent, I want it that way for you. I want you to have trust that we at Monterey One Water are going to convey your wastewater. It's going to stay in the pipe. It's going to arrive at the treatment plant where we safely treat it and reintroduce it into the environment. But I do think there is a balance in that we need to have opportunities like this, opportunities like our new 360-degree virtual tour, to make sure that you do understand where your rates are going, what they are supporting, and the investments we need to make in our system to ensure that we can keep that wastewater, that used water, those pollutants in the pipe until we can clean it and safely reintroduce it. So as I mentioned, I have a little bit of a new team here at Monterey One Water. And so we are very excited. We've added a community liaison, and not a new position, but we've shifted the focus so that we can get back out into the community and start to engage a little bit more. We're also going to be bringing on a team member to backfill an old position so that we can start being more proactive in seeking out grant funding and avenues to help increase revenue, right? Our primary revenue source is rate. So one of the responsibilities on my team is trying to seek out other funding sources. So we actually spend quite a bit of time together strategizing and seeking out funding from the state or federal governments to try to help offset those rates. So in recent years, we've been involved in writing grants that have actually offset wastewater services $7 million. But thank you for that question, because I do hope that as we move forward in these coming years, this is something my team is really passionate about. And I hope you do continue to better understand wastewater service. And it's that nice balance between you don't have to worry about your service because you trust and know that we have the certified staff operating the system, but that you also can come along the ride for, some hoop humor every now and then and some really nice education. Remember, fats, oils, and grease don't go down the drain, right? They go in the trash. So thank you for being here tonight and for that question.
Thanks, Rachel. So the question for those online was, I mentioned earlier that we don't know. We're the wastewater company. We're not the potable water company. So we don't have the data on how much water is used in our service area. And I think the statement was, how is that possible? I should be able to get, I'm going to say if that's okay. I should be able to get the data from ALCO, all of them. And unfortunately, the answer is no, I don't. I do not have that data to go get it from ALCO, Cal Water Service, California American Water, Marina Coast Water, and then all the other entities within our 285,000 customers. We just can't get that data from them on a consistent manner. Well, they could send us their bills, I suppose, but we need to have it we would need to have it from all of them in a database that we could then translate to your bill. And none of them have ever been willing to do that because they all use different systems. We do have a lot of IT people, but it's getting the information from the other entities that we don't have. I understand that inequity, and hopefully in your particular instance, you could qualify for the low use variance to get a discount. Can you talk to that gentleman before you leave? I know you were in a bit of a rush, but because that's a variance that we haven't had before, and we're asking our board to approve it next month. Okay, perfect. Yes. I'm sorry. So the question is, we don't want to get the numbers because it's hard, but, and if I can paraphrase, treating wastewater is hard also, but they're still working. I'm sorry you feel that way. That is not the case. We have looked at this. We have contacted all those other entities. And then we need to find those other entities that aren't within a service area of the 5 or 6 that I just mentioned. Everything we do is hard work. Everything everyone does is hard work. And when you hit an impediment where you cannot get it from another company or public agency, that takes a long time. So let me be clear. The question was, the state says it's okay that we can use the flow data for water to set our rates. And let me be very clear. It's not the state that's saying that, but it is a legal precedence. It's been challenged in a court of law, and it's okay. So a number, not most, but a number of wastewater entities, they do water also. So, like the gentleman was saying, it's in the same company. If it was in the same company, you're right. That's pretty darn easy. So if I look at East Bay Mud, let's see, East Bay Mud, when I used to work up in Tahoe, we were water and wastewater. We had all the data in the same house. Even that, it was hard to get it over, but we would be able to do that. There's another one I'm familiar with, Eastern Municipal Water District. They serve about 1 million people. They do water, wastewater, recycled water. All that data is in-house. They don't have to go outside, let alone to private companies to get it. So I'm sorry you believe that. We do try, and we don't just stop because it's hard. So the question was, how much does Monterey One Water get in revenue for selling the wastewater and recycling? So I'll tell you in two different ways. One is actual cost of water ballpark. So the water that goes to the Castroville Seawater Intrusion Project growers in the Salinas Valley, the 12,000 acres, I'm going to ballpark it at $800 per acre foot. Acre per acre foot is a weird unit. An acre foot is, so the contract we have with Water Resources is they pay just for our costs. So for Jose's time, for the chemicals, for the electricity, that's the 30-year contract, which terminates December 31st, 2045. That's how it works right now. And then on the other side, for the potable water that Cal-Am buys that you referenced, that is now $3,607 per acre foot. And that is the direct costs of the treatment facilities and, of course, debt service and all that sort of stuff. It's truly just expenses meeting revenues. Like I mentioned earlier, there's no profit, and we try not to have one customer class subsidize another. So the wastewater customers pay to discharge to the ocean if and when that's needed. So that's all encompassed in there. Just to throw a little bit more on there. So the Water Resources Agency agreement terminates in 2045. The Pure Water agreement terminates in ballpark 2049. So certainly if there is a concern on selling the wastewater as a product, because there is value to it, I would assume, to increase the costs elsewhere and then decrease the cost of wastewater, that's something that can be brought up, but we are in existing agreements. Yes. So yes and no. So the question is, are PG, Seaside, and Monterey paying the same rates that Salinas are? Yeah. So thanks. So we have 10 members in our agency. They all pay the same Monterey One bill, that $54 a month right now. But what's different is each member entity adds on a different amount for their collection system. So for instance, Salinas is ballpark $16 a month. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Seaside Sand City, Delray Oaks, they add on, where's Rachel? They add on about PG, whoever said PG, they add like 35. They all have different, you're right. Yes. Yes. So just to people online, our rate for residential customers for all of our rate payers is the same. It's currently $54 per month. And what we're proposing as part of this is to go to $57.27 per month. But it's all the same. Thank you. Yeah. So the question is, the rate increase would only go into effect if the Proposition 218 passes. And the answer is yes, but there's two steps. And so if you come to the board meeting, what you'll see is a public hearing on the Prop 218 process. What we do at that point is tell our board we receive this many protests or whatever that may be. They then need to decide on, yeah, we're going to set this as our maximum we could go to over the next 5 years. And then the next item, might be 2 items later, is for the budget and the rate increase. At that point, they vote for what the actual rate increase will be. So there's 2 steps to enact the rate increase that we're requesting. So the question is, would any increase affect more than Monterey One Water's bill, like property taxes or other things? It will only increase the Monterey One Water bi-monthly bill that goes out. That's it. Thank you for the question. So there were three questions. One was the injustice of billing the same amount for someone who makes $10,000 a year versus someone who makes $500,000 a year. So I'm going to answer them as we go along, if that's okay. So as a public agency, we cannot take someone's income into account on what we bill them. We have to bill them for the service provided. So in this particular instance, whether it's a low income or high income or middle income, everyone gets paid the same. And that is mandated for public agencies like us. We could go to water usage, but as a wastewater entity, like I mentioned, which goes to your next question, is that we need to communicate. But the question was, why don't we communicate more with ALCO, Cal Water, and all of them? And we do communicate with them. We have always come across a brick wall when it's like, hey, private company, please give us your data. Even if we got all the data, then we obviously would send it to, I think he said, our senior programmer to get it into a database format that we could then extract the bill down to individuals for one person in a house versus 10 people in a house and so on. But we do have communications with all those entities. That's difficult because we can't get it from them. And then the second thing that's difficult is trying to find all those outliers that aren't within any of those service areas that have maybe private wells or other things. Third question was desal. Got a big ocean right here. Seems like we could use it. Now, so that's obviously on the water side, which doesn't necessarily have much to do with wastewater. But I will tell you, because I think you brought up our pure water recycled water facility, and energy requirements for a wastewater recycled water facility is about a quarter to a fifth of what a desal facility is. So we could do a desal potentially, obviously absent regulations and things like that. The water would be a lot more expensive. If I look back at the 2017 estimates for the proposed California American Water Company desal plant, they were in the $6,000 per acre foot range back then. I mentioned ours currently is $3,607 per acre foot. So you're right. There's places around the country that do it. There's a 50 million gallon per day desal plant in Carlsbad. There's a number of them in Florida. You look around the world, it happens as well. It is more expensive though. Now, if we use up all of our wastewater for recycling, that's certainly the next step. Got to go somewhere for water. So thank you. So I think I'm going to say two questions there, and I'll editorialize a little bit. One question is, if we do a low use variance, do it now is the request. And I will tell you that we are bringing that to our board on June 29th in hopes of rolling it out in the next month or two. Administratively, I think we might have some challenges, but that's what we're shooting for. It is not going to be, if you had one person in your house versus 10 people, it's not going to be a tenth of the cost. The reason being, in water and wastewater utilities, just from a utility management perspective, about 85% of the costs are fixed costs. So whether anyone sends water to us or not, or if everyone has one person, we still need to maintain all that stuff and reinvest in it. But we do want to acknowledge that there's people that only have one person in a house, and it is inequitable. So that should happen now. It depends what our board says, of course, but we'll do our best discussion around that. The other one, that's a great point, is just the behavioral issue of what we all do as a community, whether we put, grease down the drain, which is not a good thing, versus, 4 kids in the tub. I remember when I put my 2 kids in the tub, I think we used more water because it all ended up on the floor. But it's hard to, that's on the water side of things. on the wastewater side of things, you're right. It's really difficult to change behavior, with the exception of outreach or the the fog. Don't put fats, oils, and greases down. It's that outreach, because it is a flat rate for everyone. So we hope to change behaviors just because, number one, it's the right thing to do. Number two, you're more likely to get a sewer overflow in your house or in your yard. So I it's something I've been in the water, wastewater industry, recycled water, for 37 years, and it's something we always fight. And have the number of crews that you have on the weekend after Thanksgiving is batty to me, but it's what I think the population generally does. I know you had one. You had one. Sorry if that was unsatisfying answers, by the way.
My name is Benicio Hernandez. I do agree with my colleague that spoke before about how it is it possible that we end up paying more than others, and what he was explaining about the growers, we as users. Definitely, I have been living here for 40 years, 36 of those paying the rate increases that we have been paying. It is for the lack of knowledge, technology access. We don't have the same access as others have to computers, for the knowledge of how to inform ourselves, and the different ways that we can access to the information that is being provided by you all. Definitely, we come to this meeting firsthand without the knowledge of all the information that you already have in your belts to be able to give us and provide us all the info. Definitely, it is in our backs, the cost of the increases, either way, because of the sewer or the drinkable water increases that we suffered. Definitely, we are the ones that have to pay more. And definitely, if you're trying to support us, please do find a way that you're able to access to that. Find a way that you're able to support us in a way that we can reduce that cost increase that we have for ourselves. In regarding the spread of the information, please as well find a way that we are able to have more easily access to that info in the outreach, or be able to be knowledgeable about the info that you are pretending to spread out before we come to these meetings. And as well, if you're able to have more meetings like this one, but with a higher number of people, like he was saying, like 200 people, so we can all be aware of where we're heading. Definitely, if you're doing something to support us, do it. You're capable of it. Definitely.
Okay, thank you for the question. I'll at least try to address what I heard. Maybe not in the specific order stated. Yes, the rate increases are on the backs of all of our residents, and we understand that. In terms of the drinkable water, which you mentioned, with ag using water and urban, of course, unfortunately, that is not within our organization. That is other organizations, like, I mean, whether it be with the Monterey County Water Resources Agency, California Water Service, Cal-Am Water, ALCO, and so on. But in reference to the sewer increases, I do want to say, we mentioned it, but I want to emphasize it. In addition to the low use variance for someone who doesn't have many people in the house, we also have a customer assistance program that also on the 29th, we're going to ask our board to fund at a greater level to help out people, understanding that this rate increase does hit everyone. In terms of informing ourselves and not necessarily having access to technology or going on the website or things like that, I'm going to ask Rachel to talk about what we've done for outreach in reference to our Prop 218, but that's a really interesting problem, actually. And I guess this, please excuse me, but just thinking off the top of my head, is there ways that we can partner with the city of Salinas or maybe some of the ag companies to have, or the libraries, frankly, for computers set up with a link specifically to our website that would make it easier to access that information. In terms of how to reduce the costs, we didn't get into it today, but by no means was this the first budget that was proposed to us. And when I say us, the executive team, we roll up our budgets from all of our departments, and we scrutinize them, and we ask questions, and we cut where we need to. As you see from this, where each dollar goes, Matt, engineering, operations, and maintenance propose certain projects, which we scrutinize. And in this year, unfortunately, we did have to push a number of projects off of that 10-year planning horizon because we just didn't feel we had the revenue to do the work, or the rate increases would have been much higher. So even with that, we went back to all the staff and said, you need to cut another 5% out wherever you can. So it's not just what comes in goes to you to develop the budget. We scrutinize it and reduce it where we think is reasonable, yet still provide safe, reliable service. In terms of more meetings, at this point, we don't have any more scheduled in Salinas. We do have one tomorrow night in Seaside, and then next Monday night in Marina. Same sort of forum, but we are trying to get more information out there. With that, I'd just like Rachel to talk about the spread, the outreach information that went out that wasn't technology, but was hard copies in your bills or those things that you have in front of you, and how many touch points we tried to have to make sure people were aware. Now, I will absolutely admit we could always do better, but please understand we're trying to go above and beyond the regulations and the law to reach all of our customers.
All right, thank you, Paul. So just real quick on the outreach we've done. So 2 mailers were sent to customers, 1 education-based, which is more of that trifold style, and then 1 promotional-based, encouraging people to attend tonight. Because tonight was actually, or tonight, tomorrow night, and next Monday, this is our primary strategy for informing and distributing and getting access to the information. So this is one of our non-digital strategies for disseminating information within the public. We also are running digital campaigns. We have virtual participation as well for each of these forums. And then, of course, we have our newspaper notices letting the public know, if that's a medium they read, to attend the public information or to attend the public meetings. And then I believe that's it for non-digital on this. But we are going to actually follow up with some of you who have made that comment tonight, and hope to maybe get some insight into good distribution outlets and methods for disseminating information through non-digital methods. So for the proposed rates, we don't, but on the outreach side of things, we do. So you may, if you listen to Spanish radio, we run ads on the fats, oils, and grease. It's our Clogbuster campaign. So we don't always promote ourselves. We're promoting the message, right? And if you only have 15 seconds, you may not hear that it's Monterey One Water, but we're going to get to the salient points about behavioral changes we might be seeking, or reminders. Maybe you already know the behavior, but it's a good reminder heading into Thanksgiving and other times. So we do, Spanish radio is one of our top strategies for Spanish communications.
Thanks, Rachel. So the question was the question out here, and it absolutely was, for us, Monterey One Water, to go to all the water companies, get the water usage data, to then develop a rate structure that was based on water usage. And yes, that was some of the discussions. And I don't know if you heard my explanation of the difficulties. Okay. Absolutely, you're right. Yes, so I think that statement was sometimes the summertime usage is high because people are irrigating or pools or whatever. What we would focus on if we were trying to do a structure like that is to look at the water use data from, let's say, November through February, where in theory, there's less outdoor irrigation. But so partially addresses what you're saying, but I understand.
All right. So if you are interested in providing public comment, as Paul mentioned, you can come on Monday, June 29th to our board meeting in Ryan Ranch, Monterey. If you would prefer to submit it via writing in the trifold notice that was mailed to your house, or we have more on here if you've maybe gotten rid of it, there is a process, and you actually cannot do this digitally. This is a written process where you can protest the proposed rate adjustments, and you can either bring it to our office in Ryan Ranch or mail it to our office in Ryan Ranch. And we will track all of that. We will track all of that, and we will actually read out, the board clerk will read out the night of the public hearing. It's the part in orange. She will read out that night how many protests we received. And if we were to receive 50% plus one, the board wouldn't even be able to consider taking action.
Thanks, Rachel. And let me be clear that that protest letter is for the proposed upper limits of rate increases. It is not the rate structure. I hear you, and we are obviously all hearing you. I will say, so we started the rate study in January? No, August. And I was pushing for a change in our rate structure because, frankly, I don't like the rate structure because I don't think it's equitable. And I was looking at, could we do it on a square foot basis? Could we do it on a fixture count if you have 5 bathrooms instead of 1? You know, just in terms of low-income housing and that. So I was looking for other options that we could actually implement in the time frame allowed. None of those were legally supported. So that's why I started off with, we came down to the 2. In terms of the time we have to get this done, we couldn't get to all those entities. So I hear you. Thank you. The comment was, thank you for doing what we do, because there's other places in the world where they don't have adequate sanitation, and there is waterborne illness, environmental effects, and so on. And I'll even say it's not just other countries. Delta Diablo Sanitation District up in Pittsburgh, California, so on the East Bay area, they had a spill recently, and it wasn't recent. It was like a year ago. They were just fined $1.3 million for spilling raw wastewater. So it happens to all of us, unfortunately, but thank you. Oh, there was that one too. Was that your plant? I'm just kidding. Okay. Oh, we'll have to talk about spills. That's okay. So we have, is it 65,000 or 63,000? Okay, so 58,000. So we would need to see what, 27,000 protests plus 1. Now, I will also say, in my experience, I've never had a Prop 218 where you hit that 50% threshold, but I've had ones where we had enough where the board was like, oh, the community is speaking. We need to do something different. So I think that comment was, get out more. Get out into the public. Yeah. Yeah. Let me answer the question hopefully a little more clearly about the question was in regards to selling recycled water to various customers. So under our existing agreements, if wastewater customers right here, wastewater customers, all of us pay for, it comes into our system, we treat it, Jose treats it, and we pay to have it discharged in a safe manner per California regulations into the ocean. We have an outfall that goes in the ocean. So our wastewater rates go to this. Now, the Agricultural irrigation pays for that treatment plant and conveying the treated water to the distribution system in the 12,000 acres of ag land. They don't pay for the water because we're paying for the treatment to this level that can be discharged, which is required. But in reality, at the treatment plant, the water can go out the outfall into the ocean, or I'm going to make this up, take a left and go over to ag irrigation. They don't pay for the source water there. That is just considered waste. There's a decoupling. Now, the pure water, which goes to Cal-Am, it's the same thing. Cal-Am pays for the treatment plant and the pumping of the water purified to that level, which is far greater than the ag irrigation. So once again, Jose's running the treatment plant, water comes in, he cleans it. It can go to the ocean, take a left, go to ag irrigation, take a right, go to Cal-Am or that pure water plant. Pure water does not pay for that source water either because it's a waste product at that point. There's a decoupling. What I was saying is when the contracts end, these two, the board at that point in time in 2045 could change their minds. They could say, hey, there's value to this water where and everyone knows this, we used to treat it as waste. Now it's usable. So we just have these existing agreements there where we are bound to. Does that make sense? Oh, and your other question was, we're selling ours for $3,600 an acre foot. Cal-Am's was estimated at $6,000. Once again, we're not a for-profit company, so it's not a supply and demand thing right now. It is truly what that cost of water is, this to Cal-Am. In that bucket, how much it costs to treat and replace that infrastructure is what we charge Cal-Am. There's no profit or supply demand increases or decreases on costs, on selling. That's why I don't know how many times I said thank you for being here and showing interest, because I'm really happy with the number of people we have here. I've had ones in the past where we'll have it on site. And so we advertise, we hope someone's going to come, and you stand there and no one shows up except for maybe the guy walking his dog going, why are you standing in my neighborhood? So yes, could it be a lot better? It absolutely could. But I think just from all of our experience, this room was sufficient. Maybe if we keep doing more outreach and in 5 years there's more demand for listening to us talk about wastewater for an hour and a half, we would find a different venue. But I will say the ones in Seaside and Marina, actually, they're about this size. The Marina one, in Seaside.
The next two events tomorrow night, and it's same format, same people, same presentation. But if you want to come again, tomorrow night is in the city of Seaside at their community center at Soper Field. And so it's kind of north Seaside, I would say, within kind of the neighborhood area, or between two neighborhood areas. And then on Monday, we will be in the city of Marina at the City of Marina Public Library. So kind of centrally located.
The question is, if they went out into the community and had signatures with names and phone numbers and all that, would that be acceptable under Prop 218? And I don't believe so, because we have to have the parcel number, correct?
Correct. Erica is bringing by what information needs to be collected, including signature, parcel number. So it's very specific. The law outlines exactly what qualifies as a legal protest, or I'm sorry, not illegal, as a protest.
Yeah, that doesn't work because you have to have, it's the owner. Now, yeah, now I do have this question. What if it was a letter that says, I protest the rate increase, name, address, phone number, parcel number, signature, and then a list?
Every parcel would individually need to write that they protest and sign it. It has to be signed. You would need to, what I would encourage is for you to reference the trifold where they clearly outline, I believe it's 3 components that are required. And if you were to do something like that, I mean, I would want to call them to make sure that everybody writes in their handwriting, right? The language provided, that they are protesting, what their parcel number is, and a signature. I mean, in general,
Yeah. So the question is the parcel number on your bill. Yes. Yeah.
But not to be confused with your customer number. That might also be on your bill. So just make sure. Yes, not. Yeah, APN.
So the question is there a way to address, I'm going to call them contaminants of emerging concern, so pharmaceuticals, microplastics, perfluorinated compounds, all that stuff out of the water that we're treating before introducing it into the environment or for reuse? With a caveat, without costing an arm and a leg. So the answer to that one's no, it's going to cost an arm and a leg. Reverse osmosis certainly does it. And so for our, primary, our main wastewater plant, our tertiary plant, and our pure water plant, the pure water does have reverse osmosis as one of the 4 treatment systems. So it is removing all that stuff that you just mentioned for the drinking water. But the other 2 plants do not remove. So we do monitor periodically for PFAS and some of these other things. There is so much research going on in terms of what, and maybe you're familiar with them, what treatment systems will actually work on things. Some work on pharmaceuticals, some work on PFAS, but it's an area of significant research because it's a little different. What we discharge to the ocean when it has PFAS, pharmaceuticals, and so on, generally speaking, the California Ocean Plan relies on dilution and dispersion, so the impacts are less. What I'm more concerned about is the 28 years of irrigation of water. And what is that accumulation in the soils for farm workers? And the research that's being done right now is, well, between UC Berkeley, Purdue, and in Israel, a little bit in Spain as well, looking at crop uptake of PFAS specifically. I'm going there because Israel has actually found, and this is not to scare you, but is amazing, between for fodder crop and lettuce and such, there were people that in their bloodstreams had a therapeutic dose of, it was something benign like ibuprofen or something like that had never taken it. So it bioaccumulates in the hay to the cows. We eat the beef. We have our salad. It also accumulates more in the leaf. Look at studies of plants. It accumulates more in the leaf than in, say, the fruit or the bean or stuff like that. So it's a area of significant research and expenditure right now that we as an industry are trying to address. Yeah, in fact, Orange County Water District just received a grant for, I think, 1.75 million for a PFAS treatment they're going to try out on some of their stuff. So, from an industry perspective, as Rachel mentioned, we try to stay in contact with our peers throughout California, throughout the United States, just to see what others are doing, and we try to share as best as we can. But yeah, it's at this point, though, I mean, to maybe make people feel a little better, the amount of PFAS in our recycled water is below the proposed MCL from the federal government. MCL is maximum contaminant level. And to my knowledge, we haven't done much testing on pharmaceuticals or other CECs in the recycled water. Yeah. So PFAS, we love our acronyms. PFAS, PFOA, they are perfluorinated compounds. So they're the stuff that are on your Teflon pans. If you had parchment paper, you have parchment paper, or back when it was actually being used, McDonald's wrappers, that's how they didn't really absorb grease that much. That was that PFAS compound. Gore-Tex was PFAS. It's very useful. It's used in firefighting foams. On the plus side, we don't have a military base nearby that trains with firefighting foam, so it's not as much here as one would think. But literally, it was at one point, and they're eliminating the use of it. It was in everything. It was in our clothes, in our wrapping stuff. Is a really unfortunate circumstance. Yeah.
Right. On our team, we also do advocacy at the state and federal levels. And so just kind of bringing awareness to this, there is legislation at both the state and federal levels right now where they are considering regulations that would start to ban, right? So we're going back to the source, the people who are making, right? PFAS is a human-made chemical. So going back to the source and preventing usage of that chemical in products. So for example, baby products. So we had a bill that we advocated for last year at the state level. We got it passed out of the Assembly and the Senate, and it did not get signed into law. But so I want to bring your awareness to the fact that there is legislation. So if you see when you're voting, today is election day. I hope everybody was able to get out and vote. But as you see measures come before you, be mindful, right, of those that you may see something like that, but also to reassure you for those items that we don't see come on our ballot, we are paying attention to what is happening at the legislature, and we are advocating in both Sacramento and DC. Right now on the wipe side. So in California, you may have noticed when you buy those non-flushable wipes now, if you get baby wipes or Lysol wipes, it has a label that says do not flush. That is required in the state of California for manufacturers. It is not required nationwide. So when we think about habits, when we think about visitors coming to the area and how we need to globally make this behavioral change, we are advocating right now at the federal level to get that legislation passed nationwide. So we see that labeling everywhere. So we do put efforts on the legislative side too to help drive behavioral change.
So question is on the low use variance and just some background on it.
We heard very clearly from the board of directors that they wanted a program for people that may have one person in a home or like an ADU and an accessory dwelling unit that's using a very small amount of water. And so we looked into it. We actually wrapped it up today. And so I heard someone say, when is it going to kick in? That's what we're going to work on the next couple of weeks. So on June 29th, I would highly recommend to come to our board meeting at Ryan Ranch and weigh in, because I know the board wants to do it, but it cannot hurt to have more people come out and talk about it. I can't get into a lot of the details of it because we haven't presented it to the board yet, but I can tell you, if you use very little water, this program was built for you. And we're not putting a cap on it the first year. We'd have no feel for how many people might apply because we don't have access to all these other water companies' data. So it's really going to be interesting the first year to see how many people apply, what kind of discount they get, ultimately what that number is for us. But after 1 year, we'll come back and make some adjustments up or down. If we don't get as many applicants as we thought, we can change the data points. And so we can open up to more people. But right now, at the request of the boss, no cap on this. The line forms here. You'll hear about it on the 29th. Can't stress enough, if you have a low water consumption, you want to come see us. That'll be part of the requirements that we're going to talk about on the 29th, the things that you need, but it's pretty straightforward. Bring us November, December, January, February. Show us that your bill's up to speed or up to date. There's not a lot of requirements here because we want to make it accessible to as many people as we can. It's all going to come down to usage. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, like HOAs like that, condos, it's all things that don't fit into a single family dwelling, which is easy. I want to say we need to get out of this room in 10 minutes, but we can go sit in the parking lot with these things and talk to you more about this stuff if you have questions. Yeah, we just need to. Yeah, if someone wants to talk to projects with Matt, go over there. And thank you so much to our interpreter. You did an amazing job.